Thank you for joining us. This is the news at 7 on NTA International. I'm Ruth Aguele. Let's start with the headlines. President Buhari inaugurates a national steering committee for preparation of medium-term national development 2021 to 2025. The world observes inaugural International Day for Protection of Education from Attack. Plus, Oxford University COVID-19 vaccine trial put on hold as one participant falls ill. A high-powered National Steering Committee for the preparation of medium-term national development 2021-2025 as well as Agenda 2050 has been inaugurated. President Muhammadu Buhari, who performed the ceremony, described the task as vital to the transformation of the nation's economic fortunes beyond Vision 2020 and the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan.
In order to ensure continuity and efficiency in our development planning, it has become necessary to develop successor plans to the Nigerian Vision 2020 and the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan, which both lapsed in December this year. The main objectives of these successor plans are to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty within the next 10 years, particularly given the World Bank's projection that Nigeria will become the world's third most populous country by 2050 with over 400 million people. At the heart of the successor plans is a partnership between the public and private sectors, with government as an enabler of private sector investment and industry. The successor plans must, therefore, be designed to sustain national development as well as support our regional and global strategic interests as outlined in the African Union Agenda 2063, the ECOWAS Integration Agenda 2050, and the Sustainable Development Goals 2030.
The committee is to be co-chaired by the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, as well as Mr. Atedo Peterside, representing the private sector. Solving the challenges of power and enhancing alternative energy, as well as considering a gradual switch to digital economy, are some of the major thematic areas of focus for the long and medium-term National Development Plan. Minister of State, Budget and National Planning, Clem Agba, revealed this during an inaugural meeting of the National Steering Committee for the National Development Plan of the country here in Abuja. Chimobi Walter Inaji has more for us.
The National Development Plan aims at diversifying the economy, reducing poverty, creating jobs and wealth, and ensuring infrastructural development, among others. Now, this is the 5th National Development Plan for the country, which helps Nigeria achieve global growth agenda. Working with the private sector, the plan will serve as a bottom-up national development plan for the country, carrying all sectors and concerns along in development of a true national plan that will reflect the Nigerian realities.
I want to say that the new plans that we are planning to embark on will also be focusing on addressing those binding constraints that have impeded the much-desired industrialization and transformation of our economy. Emphasis will therefore be placed on technology acquisition, technology adaptation, research and development, and sectors that the macroeconomic frameworks have identified already, as reported by my colleague, as growth and revenue drivers.
We are concerned with deepening participation of all stakeholders in the development of the new plans. We are indeed committed to producing truly Nigerian national development plans and not just federal government of Nigerian plans. At the moment, we are in the process of engaging the grassroots through the states and the local government in the planning process, which shall take place via town hall meetings with memoranda from town development associations and traditional rulers.
And then let me also say that I'm among those who believe that the only time you are going to succeed in breaking the back of this stubborn camel called Nigeria is when the economy is in a terrible shape. During an oil boom, you're wasting your time.
The medium-term National Development Plan will be due by February 2021. In Abuja, Chimobi Walter Naji, NTA News.
A look at education. The COVID-19 pandemic offers an opportunity for federal and state governments to build a resilient education system that can withstand future shocks. On the occasion of the inaugural International Day for Protection of Education from Attack, stakeholders want governments to prioritize school safety. Let's get more details from Kelvin Ehunwai.
Protecting education, save a generation, is the theme for the first International Day to protect education from attack. There has never been a bigger threat to safe and accessible education for children than the challenge posed by COVID-19, and in the northeastern part of Nigeria, conflicts arising from insurgency. With around 46 million primary and secondary learners across Nigeria kept at home due to COVID-19 related school closures, an immediate pandemic response plan is needed, particularly for schools in communities.
If we're taking the risk in other sectors, I think we should also be bold enough to take the risk in the educational sector. What is important is for us to sustain the awareness that we've been doing, but not just sustain the awareness, build knowledge around the awareness. It's a sector that government can never afford to undermine, and that's why we've been agitating for more funding, greater provision of resources, so that we can have quality.
Since the outbreak of insurgency in the northeastern part of Nigeria, a United Nations data puts the number of damaged schools at around 910. Another 1,500 schools were forced to close, with some 4.2 million children at risk of missing out on education. Situation like this is why UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres is calling on governments around the world to invest in frameworks that will ensure secure environment in which children can learn the skills they need for the future. To deliver for children in Nigeria, stakeholders note that education must remain on top of the public agenda. In Abuja, Kelvin Ehunwai, NTA News.
Right, and joining us via Zoom from Maiduguri to speak more on the maiden celebration of the International Day to Protect Education from Attack is Mr. Maulid Warfa. He's the Chief Field Officer, UNICEF in Maiduguri. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, and I'm very pleased to be joining you from Maiduguri today.
All right, now this is the maiden celebration of the International Day to Protect Education from Attacks. What would you say necessitated this proclamation on 27th of May?
Thank you very much, and I'm really grateful that today you have put that agenda on the Prime News, and it shows how important it is that both media, the government, the international community, and the world at large puts a lot of focus on protection of schools. We had a celebration today, and I was very thrilled to listen the children, the young children themselves, who have the bold message that if they're not in school, if the schools are not protected, their future is at stake. And yes, that's why 104 countries signed the Declaration of Safe School at the General Assembly. And with that message is why we are saying attack on schools are a violation of human rights, and the world should, and government of Nigeria and both civil societies and others should focus a lot on protection of schools and protection of children at large. It's an opportunity that we reflect and make sure that no child misses education. I was also saying, as I said today, why only one day that we look into protection of schools against violence. What are we doing the other 364 days? I think
Mr. Warford,
protection of schools should be everyday agenda on government and all of us.
Yes, indeed. And looking at the protection of schools, what would you say is responsible for the incident attacks on school facilities, teachers, and even students? We've seen that happen, especially in the Northeast.
I think it's becoming, as you have highlighted rightly, it's becoming a concern and in a conflict, not only in Nigeria, but globally. Education and the children become a victim. The insurgents groups and other armed groups occupy schools, they attack a village, they come into the community, and the best building they see is a school, and that's where they use as a shelter. Unfortunately, also a military in general, also when they come to an area, the best and the largest building they find is in school, and they tend to occupy and stay. The schools have always become a victim of things that are happening around the area. Unfortunately, that affects the children psychologically. It disrupts their schooling. It sort of exposes them to kidnapping and killing and maiming and all other exposures that are not supposed to be there. Children also have, witnessed those kind of violations, and unfortunately, sometimes because they are children, they play around with those hardware equipments left by the military when the militaries leave the school.
Okay, Mr. Wafer.
It's a very sad story.
Okay, Mr. Wafer, now what do you think can governments do across the world now, to address this phenomenon, especially in this era of COVID-19, talking about the educational sector?
Yeah, now for education, both the conflict and non-conflict areas had been affected by the reality of COVID-19, and sadly, a lot of children are stuck in their houses and are unable to go back to school. I think when opportunities arise, schools should open, but schools should open safely, and that's why UNICEF and in Northeast State and particularly in Borno are working with the government, and we are now producing 350,000 face masks for children when they go back to school. So when they go back to school, government should put policies and processes and plans to make sure children do not become an agent for COVID-19 spread. Also, teachers and communities will be sort of vulnerable if schools are not open.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Maulid Warfa. Let's leave it at that. Definitely every child deserves the right to go to school. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, and thank you very much for having me.
All right, let's look at the global scene on COVID-19. Oxford University vaccine trial put on hold as a participant falls ill. Well, let's get the details from Uche Ugochukwu.
Final clinical trials for a coronavirus vaccine developed by the Oxford University and partner have been put on hold after a participant had a suspected adverse reaction in the UK. The outcome of vaccine trials is being closely watched around the world. Hopes have been high that the vaccine might be one of the first to come in the market following successful phases 1 and 2 testing. Scotland's First Minister Nicola Sturgeon has confirmed that more than 159 people have tested positive for COVID-19. This takes the total number of positive cases in Scotland to 21,878. In an effort to curtail spread of infection on campus, the University of Cambridge says it will offer students living in college accommodation a weekly coronavirus test, even if they show no symptoms. It says the program will be voluntary, but it expects most students to participate. Meanwhile, Angolan authorities have agreed to reopen schools in October after more restrictions were enforced. Schools in the country were closed in March after the country recorded its first case of COVID-19. The coronavirus in Africa tracker shows there are 231,498 active cases and 31,749 fatalities on the continent, and the 296 new cases of COVID-19 reported by the Nigerian Center for Disease Control puts the country's total figure of confirmed infections at 55,456, and 1,067 patients lost their lives. The world, as at 6 p.m. local time, has recorded 27,942,541 confirmed cases of COVID-19 and 903,885 deaths, according to statistics on the Worldometer coronavirus dashboard. That's Wednesday's global update on COVID-19. I am Uche Ugochukwu.
All right, let's take a break. We're back shortly. Stay tuned.
Issa too like football on Top Go TV. Sote him forget say him be best man for him party wedding. Amaka disappoint her bobo all because of football. Kola and the family suppose come out, but then gas change plans because for this new football season, Go TV get correct football action will make sense. Get Go TV decoder wey come with 1 month Go TV Max subscription for only 9,500 naira. Go TV.
Thanks for staying with us. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, SAN, says the federal government is working assiduously to come out with a national arbitration policy. Now, this became necessary with the successes recorded at the ongoing PNID arbitration case in the United Kingdom, which he described as a product of collective institutional collaboration and not attributable to a single individual personality. In a statement by Dr. Umar Jibril Gwandu, Special Assistant on Media and Public Relations, the minister said the federal government is not ruling out the possibility of bringing out executive orders to complement same if the need arises. The minister described the successes recorded by the Nigerian government in the recent UK court judgment on PNID issue as unprecedented. Well, transparency and accountability remain key in running the affairs of the Operation Safe Corridor. This was made known when the United Nations resident and humanitarian coordinator, Malam Sidi, visited the de-radicalization, rehabilitation and reintegration camp in Gombe State. Nafisa Umar Garba reports.
The essence of the visit is to synergize with the de-radicalization, rehabilitation and reintegration program to make an impact on the ex-combatants through quality improvement, since they are into various skills acquisition, so as to give them access to a better market. The United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator, Edward Callon, also commended the activities of the Operation Safe Corridor in peace building and investing hubs that will bring harmony, especially in the Northeast region.
According to the General, about 17 ministries, departments, and agencies are involved in this. So, I mean, listen, these guys have brought on board the global best practices in dealing with this. Whatever is going to be new is going to be very small. It will only be focused on quality improvement, and that's it.
According to the coordinator, Operation Safe Corridor, Major General Bamidele Shafa, the program has recorded successes which added values to humanity toward ensuring that the ex-combatants becomes productive members of the society. He explained that the success made have drawn other countries' representatives to adopt the model.
We have a standing account with them, which the cost of treatment is charged to Operation Safe Corridor. So we believe that is our contribution to civil society in order to continue to derive their support and cooperation.
The UN team was conducted round the camp to see the impact made so far. Nafisa Umar Garba, NTA News.
An all-inclusive Southern Kaduna Peace Summit has commenced with a resolve by stakeholders for sincere deliberations aimed at unraveling the myth and realities behind the protracted communal violence in the area for lasting peace. Convener of the summit and Executive Secretary, Nigerian Christian Pilgrims Commission is Reverend Yakubu Pam. Let's get the details from Major Ma Adamu.
Participants at the summit reflect the ethno-religious composition of the environment and were invited based on their capacity to offer sincere workable input, as well as influence on agreed course of action that may lead to breaking the protracted cycle of violence. Convener of the summit, Reverend Yakubu Pam, stresses that the project, which has the blessings of the Kaduna State government, is a starting point of a continuing process that will be upheld through committees that will be set up to drive the initiative anchored on mutual respect and consensus.
We are just here to create a platform, and this platform will be sustained. Once in a while, they will come in here and discuss and proffer solutions, because I know that new revelations about the cases will be waking up from time to time.
Co-chairman of the occasion, General Martin Luther Agwai, retired, represented by Mr. Dare Akau, and Air Vice Marshal Muhammad Dabo, retired, say it's high time the diverse communities in southern Kaduna said enough to the senseless killings and recurring violence that spare nobody. They commend the conveners of the summit, describing it as a crucial springboard towards a promising era of peace in southern Kaduna. Presenting a lead paper, Professor Suleiman Elias Ogoro, Executive Secretary Chad Found, says the time has come for the people to do it differently.
We as individuals must make our contributions, and when we come together, we can make a case to government as to what we need for them to help us sustain peace and development.
Religious leaders, including Imam Muhammad Ashafa and Reverend Gideon Paramalang of Interfaith Mediation Center, admonished the participants to deliberate with fear of God at heart. In Kaduna, Maijama Adamu, NTA News.
The Nigerian Television Authority will partner with organizations that promote the unity and national development of Nigeria. NTA's Executive Director Engineering, Stephen Moses Okwanachi, who represented the Director General of NTA, Malam Yakubu Ibn Mohammed, made this known when he received the leadership of Kids Code Club Africa. The Kids Code Club is into training innovations and mentorship program of the African child.
We are experts in ICT and technology, and we look at it, how can we contribute to our nation? What can we give to this great nation, Nigeria, and Africa as a whole? So we look at it with our expertise. We say we are going to contribute training our children, picking them early on time to give them a practical skill on ICT.
You are aware that there is what we call the executive order of the president, Executive Order 5, that emphasize and stress the importance of local content. We believe in that, and that is why in NTA, before now, we were using foreign satellite. But today, by the grace of God, we use NICOMSAT, which is the Nigerian satellite communication. So we are going to work closely with you to build capacity, particularly with the children.
Partnership between NTA and Kids Club Africa will help contribute to the growth of economy through innovative technologies. And in Ilorin, we hear that a ravaging flood has destroyed more than 100,000 hectares of rice, maize and millet farms in Pategi and its environing Kwara State. Over 3,000 residential buildings were also submerged by the flood, rendering a great number of people homeless, including women and children. Kende Omolosho reports.
Flooding is not a strange disaster in Pategi, but this time it came like a thief in the night, entering every house, joining people and taking away their belongings. The flood also submerged schools, hospitals and other infrastructure found on its way, including electric poles and pipe-borne water schemes. I'm at the bank of the River Niger, where residents can be seen relocating from where the floods have devastated their residents to the mainland.
About 3,000 buildings have been affected in the entire riverine site. It has increased their poverty level.
This used to be a farmland, but has now been taken over by waters from the River Niger. The flood is so devastating to the extent at which residents have lost valuables worth millions of naira. Baradogi, a settlement 3 kilometers away from Pategi, is submerged. It has wreaked no less havoc on over 100 communities like this. Mohammed Issa is married with 2 wives and 13 children. He has lost all his means of livelihood to the disaster.
Our farm
and houses and many things. Floods destroy it.
The water is really a big problem for us. The water has affected our houses. All we need now is shelter. We want government to assist us with a permanent shelter. Government should relocate us to a better place.
Though no life was lost to the flooding, the people's immediate need is pipe-borne water. They are calling on government to assist in relocating them to another place and dredging of the river, sourcing the flood to prevent future occurrence. Kehinde Omolosho, NTA News.
On Rigachikun Bridge along Kaduna Zaria Highway, we hear it is work in progress. Abdullahi Mohammed reports that the project managers have concentrated on refilling the transition bays of the bridge, which caved in 11 days ago, if you recall. Let's see that.
It would be recalled that a couple of hours after reopening the Rigachikun Bridge following remedial works, the transition bays caved in again. This sent a signal to the engineers that they are dealing with a case that deserves more than the usual. So they teamed up and concentrated their energy on fixing the troublesome transition bays, which has now become a bitter pill. With a total excavation of the wet soil, boulders and concrete were brought in and gradually been laid to form a new formidable base.
What we are doing now is to go to the bottom of the deck of the abutment, beneath it, beside the embankment there. We want to build it from the base. We are using boulders so that we stabilize it, so that by the time we do it, any vehicle, no extra that will cause any.
But at the expense of the alternative bridge, which is also in dire need of attention. Its two transition bases are threatened, especially as it now carries the load of traffic plying the highway in and out of the city of Kaduna. Permanent solution awaits the two bridges.
You may not appreciate the magnitude of threat to this bridge until you find your way under it. A part of it, which looks like its stabilizer, has already given way. But in the words of the federal controller here in Kaduna, a permanent solution is coming soon. That is reassuring. In Kaduna, Abdullahi Mohammed, NTA News.
Thank you, Abdullahi, for that. Let's talk sports. English Premiership trophy won last season by Liverpool is up for grabs as 2020-21 season begins on Saturday. So also La Liga. Let's get details on Sports Update with Badi Adeleye.